I love the Black Bay 58, but am I in love with it? Well, that's complicated. Hey guys, I'm Max and welcome back to Hot Ones. So the Tudor Black Bay 58 has been out for a couple years and has been a darling of the internet. In fact, recently when a friend asked me as his first luxury piece what he should get for $3,000 to $4,000, I said, that's easy. If you want a chronograph, then get a Speedmaster. If you want a diver, then you gotta go for the Black Bay 58. But we've also had a lot of new releases recently, not least of which is the blue version of this same watch. So today we're going to try to answer the question, in 2021, is the Black Bay 58 still the one to beat at its price point? Introduced in 2018, the Black Bay 58 was the latest refinement of Tudor's core Black Bay line of divers, leading the way in the recent trend of vintage-inspired watches. Tudor channels its rich history in this segment, tastefully littering the watch with details that remind us of a bygone era. As is usual for a sub-brand of Rolex, the case here is solid and confidence-inspiring. The bracelet has a nice taper, and I've overall gotten over my qualms with the faux rivets. The clasp is milled and utilizes ceramic ball-bearing detents to ensure years of proper function. And you'll surely find yourself fidgeting with the reassuring feel of this 60-click coin-edge bezel. To make a vintage-inspired watch, first you must get the dimensions right. And Tudor nailed it with a 39mm case and a 12mm thickness, making this watch feel like a considerable evolution of the Black Bay heritage that preceded it, and a pushback against the trend of bigger watches. Up close, we see gold accents on the hands, markers, and bezel, all against the matte black background. The lume is slightly yellow, but thankfully not overdone, and remains bright when charged, especially considering how much of the dial real estate is dedicated to the glowing material. A bright red triangle at the top of the bezel adds a nice pop of color to an otherwise black and gold theme. The engine that drives it is Tudor's new in-house caliber MT5402, a COSC certified chronometer with 70 hours of power reserve and a silicon hairspring. The true innovation here is how Tudor has managed to shave 2mm off of the height of this movement, making the whole form factor possible. The finishing on the skeletonized rotor is beautiful, even though it lives behind a closed caseback. Man, I love Tudor, especially with these new in-house movements. You feel like you're getting Rolex quality for half the price. But if you came here for a love letter to the Black Bay 58, I have to warn you, in the second half of this video, I do talk about some of my criticisms for the design. So if you think this is the perfect watch and you don't want to hear anything negative about it, then I suggest you click off now. Still here? Okay, the Black Bay line has over a half century of watches that precedes it. Let's take a look at those. The story begins in 1954 with the first Tudor Submariner, which used an off-the-shelf Florea movement, and besides the name on the dial, these early watches were indistinguishable from their Rolex cousins. However, early on we can see Tudor's attempts at differentiating itself, experimenting with different hand designs and switching to an ETA movement. And it wasn't just Rolex that had an illustrious military history. In the 60s, Tudor was already supplying their subs for the US Navy, and in the 70s to the Marine Nationale, the French Navy. This was also the time period when we first saw the snowflake hands make an appearance, one of my favorite vintage designs. In the later decades, Tudor continued to experiment with their take on the Submariner, with variations to case, crown, and bezel designs. Jumping to the modern era, we saw the revival of this watch to great fanfare as the Heritage Black Bay in 2012. These watches still utilized ETA movements, upgrading to an in-house caliber in 2016. The cases were stout at 41mm wide and 15mm thick. Building off the success of the Black Bay line, Tudor over the years has given us other permutations, such as the Black Bay Bronze and the Black Bay Chrono. A few final thoughts about the Black Bay 58. This is not a confused watch. It harbors a cohesive design language, drawing on its vintage roots. And no detail is left out of place. For example, the big crown, which was an innovation that allowed the original 1958 watch to reach 200 meters of submerged depth. The Tudor Rose insignia, another callback to the early days of the brand. On the wrist, the watch lies snug and flat, owing to its thin case shape. The bracelet conforms well, and there are no pressure points to speak of. My issue with the dial is that it is a cacophony of geometric shapes. Let's count them. We have circles, rectangles, squares on the hands, and a triangle at 12. This certainly is striking and bold, but to me it also clashes. One of the things that my eyes look for with luxury watches are intricacies that reveal themselves as you increase magnification. With the Black Bay 58, I can't help but feel like the visual impact is spent all at once, from a distance, and there is not much left to savor when you squint a little closer. This is of course subjective, and we won't revisit the body parts most frequently compared with opinions. So back to the original question. There is so much to love here. The Black Bay 58 gets so many things right, from its vintage sizing, to its superb build quality, to its rich history. Now, even in 2021, I would argue that you'd be hard-pressed to find such a great watch at this price point. For me personally, my issues with the dial design makes this close, but not the perfect watch, if there is even such a thing. I just wish someone would put the Black Bay bronze dial into a 39mm case. Is that foreshadowing for the next build video? I don't know. Subscribe to find out. So thank you for watching. Until next time, take care.